Hey, how were your holidays? Nothing important going on, right? Wait, previews? Ugh. Aether Revolt Preview Week and a gift for Vorthos coming to Vegas. It's January 3rd. I'm Jeremy Knoll, and welcome back to Split Second. It's Aether Revolt Preview Week. That's right, week, singular. Most standard legal sets recently received 2 weeks of previews, concluding on Friday, the week before the pre-release. According to Magic head designer Mark Rosewater in his Aether Revolt design article yesterday, small sets will only receive 1 week of previews. With that, let's dive right in. Yesterday on Daily MTG, Magic designer Ken Nagel previewed a set of cards that are the first in a pair of cycles for the set. First up was Srom, Senior Edificer. A 2/2 legendary dwarf advisor for 1 and a white, Srom says, whenever you cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle spell, draw a card. To go along with this legendary creature is Shrom's Expertise, a sorcery for 2 white that says create 3 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature tokens. You may cast a card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. When compared with Yahini's Expertise previewed a few weeks ago, it seems each of the Expertise cards will include a free spell clause for a card that costs 1 converted mana less than the Expertise card. This clause has been the source of some concern for players, as free or reduced spells in Magic have been overpowered in the past. Next up is Fatal Push, previewed by the Masters of Modern podcast. An instant for a single black mana, Fatal Push says destroy target creature if it has a converted mana cost of 2 or less. Revolt, destroy that creature if it has converted mana cost 4 or less instead, if a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn. Revolt is one of the new keywords in Aether Revolt, which triggers off a permanent you control leaving the battlefield. You can check out the full reveal episode at collected.company. Some of the Loading Ready Run crew revealed a new card yesterday in a video titled Gremlin Time. Release the Gremlins is a sorcery for red XX that says destroy X target artifacts. Create X 2/2 red gremlin creature tokens. Note that it does say destroy X, not up to X, so you won't be able to cast this and create a gremlin token without an artifact to destroy on the battlefield. Head over to youtube.com/loadingreadyrun for the full reveal video. On his Twitter yesterday, Magic designer Jules Robbins previewed Greenbelt Rampager, a 3/4 elephant for a single green mana. When it enters the battlefield, you need to pay 2 energy counters. If you can't, return Greenbelt Rampager to its owner's hand and you get an energy counter. With its return to hand clause, Greenbelt Rampager can be used to trigger the new keyword Revolt, or it can be tapped to crew a vehicle with the trigger on the stack. An elephant piloting a smuggler's copter. What a time to be alive. At Tolarian Community College, the professor had to scold special guest Boogie for plagiarism in a humorous reveal video for Gonti's Aether Heart. A 6-mana legendary artifact, Gonti's Aether Heart says whenever it or another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you get 2 energy counters. Pay 8 energy and exile Gonti's Aether Heart to take an extra turn after this one. Check out the reveal video over at youtube.com/TolarianCommunity. Getting into the cards that were previewed today, Top Level Podcast, hosted by Patrick Chapin and Mike Flores, previewed Rishkar Pima Renegade. A 2/2 legendary elf druid for 2 and a green, it says whenever Rishkar Pima Renegade enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. Each creature you control with a counter on it has tap, add a green to your mana pool. As Chapin and Flores point out in the reveal, the second effect doesn't specify +1/+1 counters, but rather a counter, which means that there are a variety of ways to get your creatures to become mana producers. Head over to toplevelpodcast.com for their full take on this new legend. As with Shram earlier, Rishkar also comes with a matching Expertise card, which was previewed today by Josh Lee Kwai and Jimmy Wong on the Command Zone podcast. Rishkar's Expertise is a sorcery for 4 green that says, draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. You may cast a card with converted mana cost 5 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. Jimmy and Josh go over a few of the possible cards to play off Rishkar's Expertise, including the Time Spiral cycle of suspend cards with no mana costs, and split cards. Check out the full episode on collected.company. A few weeks ago, Yahini's Expertise was previewed, and today Ali Antrazi provides us with the preview for Yahini themselves. Yahini Undying Partisan is a 2/2 legendary Aetherborn vampire for 2 and a black that has haste and says, whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Yahini Undying Partisan. Sacrifice another creature, Yahini gains indestructible until end of turn. If you read the Magic story on Daily MTG a few weeks ago by Allison Lures, you'll no doubt see the fantastically flavorful design of an Aetherborn that can drain the life of other beings to extend their own life. On Daily MTG today, Aether Revolt lead designer Ben Hayes has an article going over the design process for the new set and previews a few new cards. First up is Countless Gears Renegade, a 2/2 dwarf for 1 and a white. It says, Revolt, when Countless Gears Renegade enters the battlefield, if a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. Next up is Renegade Map, a 1-mana artifact that enters the battlefield tapped and says, tap and sacrifice Renegade Map, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. The last 2 cards have made a much larger splash on social media. Glint Sleeve Siphoner is a 2/1 human rogue for 1 and a black that has menace and says, whenever Glint Sleeve Siphoner enters the battlefield or attacks, you get an energy counter. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may pay 2 energy. If you do, draw a card and lose 1 life. The main comparison for this card is Dark Confidant, which has had a variety of less powerful variants through the years. The final card in Hayes' article is Mechanized Production, a mythic enchantment for 2 blue that says, enchant artifact you control. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a token that's a copy of enchanted artifact. Then, if you control 8 or more artifacts with the same name as one another, you win the game. Players are speculating on standard brews involving lots of clues or servos to trigger the game-winning effect. You can check out all of these new cards on Daily MTG. Beyond the Aether Revolt previews, some exciting news came out of Twitter recently for anyone who is a fan of magic art. Mike Linneman, co-host of the Snack Time podcast, announced that he will be heading up a magic art show at Grand Prix Las Vegas later this year. While no details have been announced as of yet, players can probably expect original art pieces and sketches from a variety of magic artists and sets. You can follow Linneman on Twitter at VorthosMike. That's our show for today, January 3rd. Make sure to like and subscribe to our channel to keep up with all the latest Magic news and strategy. And make sure to keep an eye out tomorrow for a very special episode. I'm Jeremy Knoll, and this has been Split Second.